The moment is here, you can stop your search. It's Comics by Perch.
Hey everybody, this is Perch, and I'm recording here in beautiful Switzerland. It's the airport is pretty. I mean, it's pretty nice, honest, especially the international terminal. So having a good time here. You may hear some background noise, but such is the way it works. I understand the humor of me in particular going to a place like Switzerland, but I do like Switzerland, particularly the skiing and good nature and everything else. But anyway, while I was traveling, there was a handful of things that went out. Comic shops have, in greater numbers, started posting concerns. And the concerns are basically along the lines of, hey, my readership is falling, particularly with the big franchise titles. And in this case, they were talking about the X-Men. And what was funny is there was kind of a predictable, split of opinions. People who were weighing in going, yeah, these comics are garbage. Which is fine. And the other half going, what are you talking about? These comics are better than ever. You're wrong. Now, I get that the first group can be annoying, that you don't really want to hear over and over, comics are bad, comics are bad, comics are bad. I mean, that does wear on you. It's tiring for sure. But it's the second group is the more dangerous one to the retailers, because the retailers have to sell this stuff. So if the people are saying, no, you're wrong, well, okay, I guess we can assume that the comic retailer is completely just making it up. They're actually making buckets and buckets of cash, no problem, driving a Maserati and having a good time. And they just decided for whatever reason, I think I'll go on X and I'll say the comics aren't selling because that is fun. People don't think these things through. Like, if a retailer was not selling a particular comic, in this case, X-Men, the X-Men fandom is particularly nuts at the moment. The newer fandom, I would say. I mean, all comic fandoms get a little bit nuts. I mean, fan, can be a shortened word for fanatic, and sometimes it really rings true. But, again, what the retailer is dependent on moving these comics to survive and stay open. So if somebody's coming in going, hey, my business isn't doing well, that's usually an alarm sign, because quite frankly, most people don't like to ever express any weakness at all. So the fact that somebody's coming in just saying, hey, things aren't great is actually pretty eye-opening, because it's kind of the last thing you want to do as a retailer. So then, basically taking that going, well, you must be lying because I like the comic is pretty absurd. I mean, it's just a kind of a nutty point of view. The challenge that we have, and the other thing, by the way, the person posted is, hey, there's this new Gods comic by Hickman. It's $10, and I just have very few orders. And again, this isn't we can make all the comments we want about the industry and the people involved and all that kind of stuff, but there's also just an element of common sense. $10 is a lot for a comic. It's a lot. And so, the defenders to this, including the artist, went on to say, hey, but look, it's like close to 64 pages of content. And, yeah, sure. I mean, some of that content are data sheets and other things, but 64 pages, that's a value for 64 pages. And, if you do it purely by the math, you're right. It is. I mean, if a 20-page comic could be $5, then one that's 3 times the size for 10, that's a bargain by that kind of pricing. But that's not the way people look at comics. It's not a business where people look at the price per page and kind of do the analysis. $10 is $10, and it feels like a lot of money. But full stop. That's just true. And, the economy isn't amazing. People don't have like free cash to just throw around. So, this idea that, hey, it's $10, no problem. It's good value. It may be good value. It's still $10. It's still a lot for one comic. And this was getting lost. The artist was kind of getting nice enough person. I don't want to portray it like he was getting all spicy with people or anything like that. But there was a little element of like, I don't know what you're complaining about. It's a lot of value. It's like, it may be a lot of value. It's still expensive. Buying a Porsche is a lot of value. That's a car rocks. I love it. It drives like crazy. It's also, absurdly overpriced and expensive. So, both things can be true. And the challenge with comics is you've got a lot of them out. Marvel publishing 80 plus books, DC publishing all these books. You get these micro events like Night Terrors. It's like, you don't have to buy all of them, but you could. Ha ha ha. And they're all $5. I mean, again, these things start to stack up. It's just a lot for people to consume. And put it this way, even if every single comic had a absolutely brilliant writer and artist creative team, it's still a lot of money. And that's just the rub. It's a lot of money at a time when people don't have tons of money. But back to the X-Men for a moment. The challenge you have there, and what I find particularly crazy, is that the title is, they made radical changes. And whenever somebody points out, like, hey, the sales aren't, what they're doing, there's so many reboots and relaunches, they spread the thing too thin, there's a lot of excuses given. But the core one, I think that's the problem, is that X-Men has a 60-year history, and it's a franchise. And sure, it's changed. Chris Claremont took them out of the mansion into Australia. He actually took the out of the mansion and kind of on the underground and fighting for their lives, and then, and then into Australia. And that was a big shift. And I love it when people are like, whatever you do, don't take them back to the mansion. They've actually been in and out of the mansion a lot over the last, 50 years. They lived on an island in San Francisco. They've lived scattered across the world. It said they lived in Australia. They've been everywhere. So, I mean, this don't take them back to the mansion. I don't know. Somebody would have to run the math. I think they've been away from the mansion as much as they've been in the mansion at this point. So that's kind of a weird flex. But it's still a franchise. That's the thing. This comic is still it's been a certain way. And so when they did the Krakoa era, for some people, it was a breath of fresh air. It was a brand new thing, very experimental. We're going to completely turn everything on its head, give people something brand new. And that's fine. But, as a franchise, you have a theme to the comic. And if you disrupt that theme too much, you're taking a big gamble. You're taking a gamble that all the people who like the old theme are going to like the new theme. And it's risky. It's why you don't see major changes to franchise-type characters. Mickey Mouse, hasn't gotten tatted up and, turned into a chain smoker. They just, there's certain boundaries and rules that they follow. Now, for a lot of creatives, that's tough. You want to express yourself. You want to do something new. And that's where I guess the aggravating part to me comes in, is that we've never had an easier way for creators to do indie comics, to basically publish that idea raw, unfiltered, without corporate control or editorial, without worrying about franchise interference. You've got a completely easy method to do that now. Much harder 40 years ago, but now you have it. And lots of people, just take advantage of that. But what I find, I don't know, it's disingenuous for both the creators and the fans. For the creators, I at least get it. You're going to be paid more money and you get more exposure if you're, doing your big creative ideas with the X-Men versus, say, an independent comic published on Substack. But for fans, I'm more aggravated. If you're one of the people who says, look, you can't change the X-Men back. Look, these creative ideas are too important. Look, we needed a breath of fresh air. We needed something new. The X-Men got stale. We need to take these characters in a brand new direction. Well, why do you need that in the X-Men? Jonathan Hickman has a Substack. He's doing comics on his own. Teenie Howard's over there too with him. As an aside, one of the big myths that's come about over this whole X-Men era is that, and I hear, by the way, people on the aficionados on Wes's channel every now and then say this, and it's full stop wrong. I think Doc has said this. He's wrong. It's like, well, Hickman was saddled with all these people. Hickman asked for these people. And the proof is when he left the X-Men, he continued to work with a lot of these people because he likes them. So I find this weird, let's lionize Hickman by saying, he's a perfect writer. He's just saddled with all these problem people. No, these were his choices. So you can like it or you could dislike it, but let's not pretend that he was this poor victim of all this. But anyway, for a lot of the people who love that creative work, you have an option, a good one. You can go and you can join Hickman's Substack. You can get his comics there, again, unfiltered, without any corporate interference. No worry about, weird editorial mandates coming in. It's all you. It's all there. And why don't you take advantage of that? Like, that a lot of these indie comics are struggling. They barely sell a couple thousand copies. These Substacks, Spoilers, they're not doing well. The vast majority are not doing well. I put it a different way. If you're a fan of Scott Snyder, right? He did the Batman, he did the Justice League, and he did those comics. And I remember some people saying, it's like, man, I wish he didn't have to, adhere by DC editorial mandate. He could just do what he wants on these comics. Well, he's gotten the chance to do that. Even with Capullo as a partner. Same thing with Donny Cates. A lot of these guys, they've gotten the chance to do these books. These books don't sell nearly as well as Batman, or even close to it. Like the numbers are way smaller. And so when I see people up there going, we should, you can't change them back. You can't go back to the franchise. Like, what are you after? If you are buying a Marvel or a DC comic, you're buying a franchise version of a character or concept. And there's nothing wrong with that. To distort that utterly risks losing all your fans. If you like those ideas, then you have options. You have independent works from these creators that you can support. So why do you need both? Why do you want the idea and you have to have it in the thing that really shouldn't take those new ideas? And it feels greedy and wrong-headed. It's like if you're one of those people who goes, well, Batman should get out of the cave, be broke, not have any family, be a murderer and kill people. Like, that's what Batman needs to be. That's what I want. Well, that's not what Batman is or ever should be in the core franchise. You can play with Elseworld stuff all day long, but in DC's books, that breaks the character, it breaks the theme, it breaks the franchise they built up. But that doesn't mean you can't support a creator doing something brand new. Sean Gordon Murphy has the White Knight universe. It's a very different take on Batman. If that's what you like, you've got something for you. And it's even still Batman in this case. But you also have people like Murphy doing plot holes and doing the independent work. You have Snyder doing his stuff with Amazon and Distillery. And, you've got independent options coming out of your ears. So support those. And stop demanding that kind of these franchises that have existed for 60 years have to radically change to meet what? Because at some point, I stopped thinking that, you actually wanted a creative story because you have an option for one. And I started thinking it's a lot more about just taking something away from someone else. And that's what a lot of these critiques feel like. It's not, I want this comic. It's not, I want this new concept. It's, I want other people to suffer. Quite bluntly. That's what the X-Men stuff feels a lot like that. The sales are down. The franchise is in deep trouble. They've got to completely reboot it. There's no time for, it's like, no, we're just going to kind of dick around with these concepts that don't work. It's on kind of immediate need for life support. And so you see sites going, well, the only way that I'll accept the X-Men is if, you put, Vita and Danny Lore and Teenie Howard and, Stephanie Williams and those on the titles, and you go further, make them go even deeper into the Krakoa stuff. Take away any fights whatsoever. It should just be them eating food and enjoying the beach and talking about their emotions. Like, that's the only thing that's not the X-Men. It's not the comic that's built up. And I don't think you want it. The sales prove it. I think you just want the original fan base to be unhappy. And why you want that is baffling to me. But anyway, just some thoughts before I board this plane. Hey, there's no overhead announcements to interrupt the whole thing, so maybe the background noise won't be too bad. I get to watch all the people from Emirates go walking by in their crazy little costumes. Anyway, hope you're doing well. Talk to you soon. I forgot my tagline. It's been too long since I've done a video. Thanks for listening.